Hello, I'm Leroy Garcia, and this is Blue Rain Gallery Podcast. I'd like to welcome our guest today, Doug West, who's our feature artist. We get him once a year at a show like this, so it's a special moment. Come on in, Doug.
Okay. Hello.
Hey, Doug. And what I want to do today is just go through the imagery a little bit, and then we're going to end up at the healing point again, which is important because that's your journey in life.
Okay.
And it's important, but
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So Doug has been painting for 35, 40 years at this point, and but not in oils. Oils started about 15 years ago.
That's correct.
Or
Leroy.
so. And he had to retrain himself, like from thinking of doing serigraphs, which is cutouts and all this stuff, which is more complex. Yeah, silkscreen printing, which is really complex in some ways. But he had to teach himself how to do that with a brush and one dot at a time in some ways, right?
Kind of,
sort of.
My degree in college was in ceramics.
Yeah.
And what I carried forward from that was an eye towards detail and craftsmanship.
Well,
And so that's happened both with printmaking
and the
now with
painting. And these paintings are phenomenal. And, his contemporaries at his age and level, like Ed Mel and other people, very accomplished, but they never did detail or change of sceneries like this. And it's amazing work. But we'll start with one of the more smaller pieces, but they're significant, especially it's New Mexican in theory, right? When you talk about hollyhocks.
Hollyhocks are so representative of northern New Mexico, and I think of it particularly having lived in Taos for 13 years. So, and what's wonderful about them is they volunteer in nowhere.
Yes.
And sort of in this,
sometimes they don't even take water. I mean, it is.
Yeah, exactly. In summer months.
It's like a desert flower in a way.
Kind of. And only during the summer. But I love them for their graphic quality. And in this case, with serigraphs, cut out stenciled areas, my work tends now to be more stylized in that regard. I've brought that forward, and this one is a good example of it. I'm quite happy with it. It's very simple. Some of my pieces are more complex, but I love the graphic symmetry of this, and also how it pops forward.
Yeah, despite the simplicity, there's still a lot of detail. If you look at this part, the chamisas over here in the canyon, and that's still a lot of ding.
This represents at least 3 weeks, if not more.
That is amazing, and it's beautiful. And I love the color palette. Of course, hollyhocks come in yellows and reds, and they're very beautiful flowers.
But against the blue,
it's like.
And I named this Electra.
That is awesome. That's awesome. All right, let's go to another one over here on this side. This type of podcast we always call walk-alongs, and I think they're more interesting sometimes.
Okay, so we'll go to that one before we go to that.
Okay, yeah,
right? Because we don't want to end on that.
Correct. Okay, so here we are. This is the 7th of dawn.
Leroy.
And what does that mean, the 7th dawn? Is it on the Sabbath or like?
I wanted to give it a little bit of a mystery and mystical quality. Now, Leroy, do you know where this is?
Is that Valdez?
Of course.
Valdez is in Taos, New Mexico on the north side.
Native Taoseños, because the ski area is right back
right through here.
And this is Valdez in the morning, Valdez Valley, and it's subtle. I don't know if the camera will pick this up, but there's sort of rays of light coming from the sun that's flooding through here. And I've painted this before, but this was fun. I set up a different compositional thing where everything sort of leads over to here with the valley, with the clouds, the slant of the clouds, and the lines of the irrigated fields. So it was fun to do it again.
Well, it's an interesting scene because I remember as a youth driving over there because it's kind of on a cliff looking down into the valley, right?
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of guardrails. Every now and then you see cars floating
right along this edge. It's definitely a drop.
Yeah, but definitely hint to the ski valley. But definitely about the agricultural part of northern New Mexico.
Well, and a lot of Hispanic families that settled there. I mean, it's the beauty of northern New Mexico is the cultural tradition
Yes.
of hundreds of years.
Well, these are mostly probably alfalfa fields. And my family actually settled in this area in the north part of Taos and Valdez and Arroyo Seco, right? And that's all that was, all
Right.
agricultural.
And in reality, homesteads
Yes.
all along here. And now
He just didn't paint the homes.
and the rich homes up in here.
We won't talk about that. Again, in any of Doug West's paintings, there's always a hint of major detail, of painstaking time to create the chamisas or the piñons or the aspens. It's amazing work. Most artists don't do that. They don't take the time to get into the detail. It's easier to do like a more obscure format than what you're doing.
Abstract. Yeah.
Abstract.
That's realized more quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll speak to that as we go along.
Yeah. And this painting, Doug, it gives me allergies looking at it. It does. And
Are
why,
you getting all of this right now?
and why is that?
Well, and so I happen to live on the Pacific side of the southern Baja now. I gave up Taos winters about 14 years ago. And so I come back to Santa Fe and my eyes are running, I'm sneezing. It's because of the allergy, the pollens.
The pollens.
From the chamisa plants, which are in full bloom right now.
Right now. Uh-huh.
It's fabulous for me in terms of photographing it. And it's very dramatic, right? Because soon it will be all gray.
It will be all gray, thank God, because the pollen from there is it's very beautiful. And you see, the whole landscape sometimes of this golden plant, and it's just amazing, beautiful.
These are representing sage, pinon. This is a plant that grows during the summer called mullein, and that's a Spanish bayonet.
Yeah. Beautiful. And where's this seen at?
Well, I'm thinking of it as kind of the Sangre de Cristos. And, the ski area might be up here, but it's in the Tesuque area.
Tesuque?
That's the feel of it to me. And again, morning light flooding through.
One thing that I want to mention about Doug is that he travels northern New Mexico like no other. And so all these scenes, all the way into the southern landscapes of New Mexico, the sands. But you're definitely a student of the landscape in our area.
I lived principally in northern New Mexico, both in Santa Fe and in Taos, with some diversions in between for most of my adult life, or my artistic life.
So this one, which is actually sold, is very beautiful. It's not surprising that I went boop.
Desert
Citadel.
It's Fajada Butte, which is centered in the length of Chaco Canyon, and I've painted this before. It's so dramatic. It's reminiscent of Shiprock.
I was going to say,
formation.
If you ever been to Chaco Canyon in that area, you see beautiful rock formations like this all over the place that end up all into the Shiprock area in
that's right.
Canyon.
Cabezon Peak, headed down that valley further. Volcanic formations.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And again,
and in evening light. So this is all kind of muted, except for the dots that Leroy's talking.
The painstaking.
Yeah, the deal for me is I paint a little bit for the marketplace. I paint mainly for myself.
Yeah.
And so I'm satisfying myself that it's not done until I feel good about it. And the pleasure of working for a show is I kind of do one piece at a time, and then they'll all be sitting around. In the last 2 weeks, I take a second look and think, oh, there's what is missing. So those are the kind of details I put in.
Well, the other thing is not like Doug is really known for the detail that most artists will not get into because it's just so labor intensive. But your cloud formations that you love to paint, that's a beautiful part of almost all of your elements that you're painting in landscape formations, which leads us into the amazing.
Yeah, well, and the skies here are so dramatic. Like this. This is what I would call in the summertime a heroic thunderhead cloud. Yeah.
And it looks like that. You live out here, you see that. And what he's also mentioning is that the beautiful thing, when you think about the Taos founders that came to Taos, Caus and Sharp and all those people, one of the first things that they were impressed by was the light.
Absolutely.
And the atmosphere, the clouds, these thunderheads that are just normal. We take it for granted when we live here. But if you're coming from East Coast and whatever, you don't realize that. This is beautiful.
And there's a reason for that, because we're here in Santa Fe at what, 56,000 feet?
Like 6,000 feet?
6,000 feet, and up in Taos it's closer to
65,
67,
mm-hmm.
7. So, yeah, this is going. I sort of made the visual focus of this all going back to Pedernal Peak, which is near Abiquiu.
Yeah.
But then the clouds are all part of that too.
And that's a very famous peak that people paint, that mesa, Pedernal.
Read the title.
It's called Facing Ahead.
Facing Ahead, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Leah, come in tight here a little bit just to...
Yeah, just to look at the detail, the amount of
check
time.
out the detail.
It's
Leah,
beautiful.
Famous
lady. So Doug, how long did it take you to paint something like this with the amount of in this?
I think I worked on this for at least 6 weeks.
6 weeks or so.
Yeah, and then some, because this is one that I came back to with the realization that I needed more highlights and the clouds are being illuminated, right? But hours and hours and hours doing this layering of these little bushes. And
so I know we just did a little video blog with you and Leah out there in, was it La Cienega or was it Los Alamos?
Waldo Canyon.
In Waldo Canyon, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
towards
so you actually get out here and you photograph. Are you constructing based purely on your photographs, or is it a mixture of like your imagination with the photograph?
Oh, absolutely. The photographs give me a basis for working out the composition. In this case, there was a road right here. But I had that, and I had Pedernal in the background, and then everything between the lighting condition, it being sunset, all of this vegetation, the placement of the vegetation, this foreground element here, the rain, the clouds, all of that happened in composition and in painting in my studio.
Yeah, and I know, and for somebody who's looking at this, like, where'd those colors come from? But these are actual colors that exist in the Southwest. It's amazing.
And you know, and the beauty of living with art is you get to insert some of your imagination in there too, of experiences that a collector has had, and so it doesn't have to be literal. It is, my work is realistic, but it has an element of something beyond that. And part of that is the viewer's imagination.
Well, you know, like eliminating the homes in Valdez, or eliminating the road. It takes imagination to do, like, get the purity of it.
Well, I've always done that, Leroy. Even in my serigraphs, occasionally I would have a fence that I could use.
I don't remember any fences.
Well, in the serigraphs, to use as a compositional element, like the fields in that Valdez piece that lead to what I want as the background element.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's another one with a lot of detail on that.
This is the first one I started working on for the show. And I struggled with this. I knew I wanted Pedernal Peak, again near Abiquiu, which was in the previous one. I wanted it to be powerful and big. And I just had trouble making that work. Normally I'd put something big here to kind of counterbalance it, but I wanted to even emphasize that size more. And I got lost in doing this detail here. And
it's mind-boggling.
It was all the way up into here, and it was way over here, and I'd look at it and think, that's not working. And I think I had more of this over here, and decided that's not working. So that's the interesting thing about the creative process in painting, is that I can go over what I've laid in before once I get a better handle or vision, as I'm working on it.
Who says a normal artist would get the canvas, it's all gessoed up, right? And then are you drawing this out in a little bit? And then
I'm drawing that with charcoal.
With
And I
charcoal?
can paint right over it.
Yeah.
And with charcoal, I can also rub it with a cloth and change the shape of something. So I start with lines on a white canvas, and that enables me to think about composition without color.
Yeah.
And then from there, I go forward. And if I have a photograph that I've shot that really has all the elements, including sky, I'll use a lot of the information, but usually I have to invent what I'm doing, and that was the case with this.
Well,
as well.
a lot of the great artists have been drawers. They draw first and then paint in, but it starts with that. So, is that how you learned to do paintings in general?
Well, it's how I had to work with serigraphs,
Right.
because you start with a black and white drawing that you then lay lacquer film over with, and you cut out one little area with a knife and peel off the lacquer film, and that's where the ink is going to go through the screen. So I had to think in terms of composition with black and white lines.
But and you've replaced that with dot 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 dot. But it's amazing because some of those screens in the serigraphs are 100, 110 deep. That's crazy.
One thing that I can do that I could, well, first of all, this is very much like my serigraph. See, blends of one color into another, they're pretty seamless. But I couldn't do this kind of subtlety of change of color. And yes, I've made it more complex by adding dots.
You're oh my gosh. Okay, it looks like we have a pinon over here.
Yeah.
You titled this Our Fleeting Times.
I did. Yes, it's funny that sometimes, our fleeting times. Yeah. I was out here on the lam with a friend that we kind of parted ways, but it's in memory of those times. This is near Wild Rivers.
Oh,
so near Cuesta, right?
Where the Red River hits the Rio Grande in that area.
And so here's it's supposed to be a juniper, whatever tree you want, in a bonsai-like presence, and with the Rio Grande down here, and the sunset going that way, and
And again, the detail on this is just amazing. From all the little needles and everything.
I kept working, and really juniper, you wouldn't see needles. That's more a pinon look.
Yeah.
But the shape of the tree is definitely more juniper. And for a three-dimensional presence, which is what I kept looking for, that's what I felt I had to do.
Nice. Well, it's very beautiful. And the amount of time on that, too, is amazing. I wanted to talk about another piece that you did is very unusual because it doesn't have exactly your normal style to it.
Not at all.
At all. So let's go over here and talk about that. And this is like a river scene, obviously. Where is this located at?
Okay, so I talked about how I start with charcoal canvas. The next step is I cover the canvas with paint as quickly as I can, the whole thing, as I kind of envision.
Like a color, a general color?
Everything. I'll be mixing color on my palette, and in this case, I was using big brushes, and that is the background here. It's very loose, very ethereal, and there's this scrubbed-in green area that shows sort of through here, and the rocks were very rough. It's a rough end. And I liked that so much back there that I didn't want to do my usual thing of tightening up the entire canvas. So I tightened up what's down here in information, but everything gets kind of spread out and looser back here with still some tight elements. Composition, I love this piece because it's different. And for an artist, I don't want to replicate the same look over and over again, although it's part of the essence of my creative voice, right? The detailed look and then looking for deep space. And this has a feeling of that here with light.
Yeah, you have hint of detail in here as well.
Yeah,
the grasses and that they're there. It's you just have to look for it.
So if this doesn't find a home, I'll happily take it back.
Well, it's such an unusual piece for you, isn't it?
And I think that that's wonderful for collectors to see. It's interesting because of the Facebook postings that I made of my new work. This is the one.
Got a lot of.
It got more than any of it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful piece, but very unusual for a Douglas.
Yes, very unusual, and I think it'll take a sophisticated
To
collector
understand
to
that.
see the restraint that I've used in leaving some of these areas really rough, along with tighter elements.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, let's get back to part of your life journey over here.
Okay.
And I know this is a very symbolic, reverenced piece for Doug. And I'll just refresh people's memory. A few years back, Doug had a very bad, tragic accident where he almost burned to death. About 60% of his body burned. And we weren't sure if he'd ever be able to paint again. And lo and behold, 8 months, 9 months of hell.
Well, I was in the hospital for 10 weeks. They gave me a 20% chance or less of surviving. It was a propane explosion. And the cool thing about that wasn't cool, it was odd, is that it's instant.
Yeah.
Rather than a liquid like gas. But a lot of me was.
The healing process took time.
It took time emotionally, physically, although I really had a good attitude about it. And
you did.
So this piece, when I got home from the hospital, I was really shaky. I live alone. I dropped things, had trouble picking them up and trouble with stairs, everything. Because your body feeds on itself if you're lying flat on your back for 10 weeks.
Atrophy.
Having major surgery every week. So I thought a nurse suggested to me in the hospital because of my attitude that I should write a story or a guide to survival. It was quite different than what they usually see with patients. And I came home with the thought, yeah, that's something I could do. I could do that in a sedentary way and not trying to build back my strength. After about 2 weeks of working on an outline, thinking about it, I thought, I want to be in the studio, And so I went into the studio and I had this vision of what I wanted to paint, a white rose symbolical of rebirth and renewal. And so I worked on this composition, and the sky is so dramatic and wild with the orange red symbolizing fire, but the rose is all about renewal and strength. And the area itself is an area I'm going to go back to on my way home. It's at this extreme southwest corner of New Mexico. It's a place called Las Playas, very much off the beaten track near Lordsburg. But yeah, this piece was hanging in my home, and I brought it for the show last year because it was a compliment to a red rose of the same size in the show. And now it's on the cover of the Santa Fe Symphony Orchestra for this year.
What a big honor.
Spilled into next, so I guess I'm not taking it home. It's for sale, but you're going to have to really want it.
Yeah, they really want it. But, it's just emblematic of your beautiful spirit, Doug, and the fact that you're a fighter. And we set this up like you called it an altar with the roses on the sides.
This was brilliant. I came in here yesterday and saw it, and now there are pots and things down here, but it was just price tags, but they were face down.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this looks like roses. Anyway, I'm so appreciative of this and the opportunity to always to call Blue Rain my home.
And your family. So
yeah,
don't ever forget that.
I know that, brother.
Thank you, Doug. Love you long time, brother. Yeah. Well, I want to thank Doug for coming in today and producing us a beautiful show. I'd like to encourage everybody to subscribe to our podcast on any of the platforms, iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get it. If you don't want to get it, you can always go to blueraingallery.com Menu Bar Podcasts. And we've done a couple podcasts with Doug over the years, and you get to know him better by listening to that. Also, if you want to go to our online store, you can find plenty of wonderful products with Doug's imagery on it, and they're very popular actually. So you can go to bluerainprintshop.com and under Doug West and get all the Doug West stuff you like.
Right.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Leroy. Thanks, Leah.